Hey guys, and welcome back. So over the last couple videos, we've spent some time getting to know some individual respiratory herbs. Specifically, we've spoken about mullein, marshmallow root, elderflower, thyme, bee balm, elecampane, and licorice root. And so today we're going to do the fun stuff, right? And we're going to bring some of those plants together. But this is not going to be a video of Sarah's famous respiratory tea. There is no perfect respiratory tea because there is no single formulation that makes sense for every respiratory situation. A dry, scratchy cough is not the same picture as a chesty cough with thick mucus, and neither of those is the same as the beginning of a seasonal cold, right? When you feel chilled, stuffy, or just uncomfortable. So today, I'm going to walk you through 3 possible formulas. Notice I said possible. For each one, we're going to ask, what is our overall goal? What does each herb contribute and why it was included? And what might make us leave an herb out, even though it could be beneficial. So this is where actual formulation begins and not just reading recipes, right? This is reasoning, right? We're going to use our brains and match what we know about specific tissues. So Formula 1, dry, irritated, and scratchy. So that dry respiratory picture, right? You've got a dry, irritated cough. Maybe there's a little mucus, but not a lot. Throat feels super scratchy. The overall respiratory tissues are irritated, and every cough just seems to make it a little bit more uncomfortable, right? So the formulation I would first start with and think about would probably be 2 parts marshmallow root, 1 part mullein, and a 1/2 part licorice root. And remember, we need to have some sensitivity around licorice root, but we'll circle back to that in a minute. So for why is marshmallow the central theme? Well, because of the mucilage, right? And our central theme to our irritation is dry and irritated. So that mucilage, that water-loving chemistry this plant is known for, provides a soothing, moistening support for that irritated mouth, throat tissues, and dry cough. And even European medicines agencies recognize that traditional use specifically for mouth or throat irritation. Good luck finding that in any American models. But anyway, so marshmallow is not here merely because it belongs on your respiratory shelf. It's here because its particular chemistry matches the picture of what we're trying to support. So where are we going to add mullein? Well, mullein brings a gentler respiratory dimension. It has a long history as a respiratory tonic and often used when your airways feel irritated or tired. It also contributes some mucilage, but not the same abundance as marshmallow. So in this formula, mullein is not replacing marshmallow. Marshmallow remains that moistening center of the blend, and mullein is just going to broaden the formulation towards general respiratory comfort. And remember to strain mullein tea so the little hairs don't irritate your already irritated throat. So why would we add licorice root? Well, licorice root brings a sweet, soothing characteristic and a formulation harmony to this blend. The flavor can actually soften the earthy taste of the roots and leaves if that's something that turned off to your palate. But it's also an herb, as we know from our licorice root video, that you have to take extreme caution with because it can raise your blood pressure. It can lower potassium, it can cause fluid retention, and interact with certain medications. So, people with hypertension, kidney, liver, cardiovascular disorders, caution is warranted, and please talk to your doctor before just putting herbs in your mouth. So, licorice earns its place because it contributes soothing sweetness and helps unify the blend. But if it's not good for you, don't use it. I mean, common sense, right? So how would I prepare this blend? Well, because marshmallow's mucilage is centered to our formula, I would favor a cool or room temperature infusion and I wouldn't just pour boiling water over the entire blend. Combine the herbs with water and allow them to infuse for several hours to overnight, and then strain thoroughly. That preparation is going to emphasize the slippery, soothing quality we choose for marshmallow in the first place. So this teaches us an important lesson. If we begin with the tissue state, then choosing the herbs whose chemistry matches it becomes so much easier. So let's move to formulation 2. We've got a different picture now. This time the cough is productive. Mucus is present, but it feels thick or difficult to move. The chest may feel heavy or congested. So I would probably switch up my formula and go 2 parts mullein leaf, 1 part thyme, 1 part elecampane root, and 2 parts licorice root. So why is mullein the base in this formula? Well, mullein becomes the foundation because we want a gentle respiratory herb that traditionally supports the normal mucus movement while also offering soothing characteristics. So that's why mullein becomes beneficial in this formulation, right? It's not simply harsh or aggressively stimulating. It can sit in the middle of the respiratory formula and help connect the stronger respiratory goals, right? So why is thyme included? Well, thyme brings aromatic volatile oils and much more active sensory quality, right? So the European Medicine Agency also recognizes thyme's long-standing traditional use for productive chesty coughs and that are associated with colds. So that's why thyme is beneficial when there's mucus involved, right? It also changes the entire feel of the blend, right? Mullein is mild and soft. Thyme is aromatic, warming, and unmistakable, right? And this is why we study the herbs individually first. They may both belong in the respiratory system, but they're not contributing the same thing. So why did elecampane show up on? Well, elecampane gives the formula a deeper warming root component. Traditionally, it has been used in respiratory formulas where congestion feels heavy, stubborn, or lingering. Its strong aromatic and bitter qualities also distinguish it from soothing herbs like marshmallow. So elecampane is not included simply because it's a respiratory herb. It's included because we want more movement, warmth, and depth the mullein alone provides. Because elecampane is a root, it generally benefits from simmering. So again, licorice would be included to soften the bitterness and intensity of the elecampane and the thyme while contributing its own soothing qualities. But again, use common sense and address the safety concerns. A formula should never depend so completely on one herb that it will fall apart if you have to remove it. This is another sign of a thoughtful formulation. So how would I prepare this blend? Well, because this formula contains elecampane root, I would begin by gently simmering the elecampane and optional licorice for about 10 to 15 minutes. Then I would remove that pot from the heat. I would let it cool, and then I would add the mullein and the thyme. I would cover it and allow those lighter herbs to steep. And then finally strain it because of the mullein hairs. Make sure you take care. Notice how the plant parts shaped our method in formulation. We didn't simmer everything for the same amount of time. The root needed more heat, and the leafy aromatic herbs were added later. This blend teaches when thick mucus is the central picture, soothing support may still matter, but the formulation also needs herbs traditionally valued for helping the body, do what the body does when things feel stuck. All right, for the third blend, imagine the beginning of a seasonal cold. I know, it'll be here before we know it. Someone feels chilled. The nose or upper airways are beginning to feel stuffy. There may be an early cough, but deep chest congestion is not yet the dominant feature, right? So for this, we're going to switch it up. We're going to do 2 parts elderflower, 1 part bee balm, 1 part thyme, and a 1/2 part of lavender. So why does elderflower lead? Well, elderflower, because it has a long tradition in early seasonal wellness preparations. So again, the European Medicine Agency recognizes its traditional use for relieving early symptoms of the common cold. And it makes it the natural central herb when the situation's just beginning and the upper respiratory system is involved. So why bee balm belongs? Well, bee balm brings in aromatic warmth. But depending on the species, it can have a fragrance reminiscent of oregano, thyme, or citrus. And traditionally has been used in teas during seasonal discomfort for all the digestive and respiratory support that goes along with it. So in this blend, bee balm helps keep elderflower from feeling too delicate or one-dimensional. It contributes warmth and a stronger aromatic presence. So why did we put thyme in here then? Well, thyme adds another layer of aromatic respiratory support because this formulation is meant for an early seasonal picture rather than a dry, raw foe. Thyme fits more naturally here because of that. But I would keep it at a moderate proportion. We want thyme to support the formula, not overpower the elderflower, right? So why is lavender only here in a small part? Well, lavender contributes aroma and relaxation. When someone feels uncomfortable and has difficulty settling down, a little lavender may make the tea more pleasant and calming for their experience. But lavender is not respiratory formulation of this formulation, right? That's why there's only a 1/2 part of it. It's an excellent example of a supporting herb, right? It's contributing something useful without being main character. So how would I prepare it? Well, this is a simple covered infusion. Pour hot water over all the herbs, cover the cup or the teapot, and steep. Covering matters because elderflower, bee balm, thyme, and lavender are all aromatic oils. And we don't want all of our fragrance, right, and the volatile oils of the chemistry escaping into the room before you ever sat down to drink your tea. So this blend will teach us that a formulation may include 1 herb for the principal body system goal, another herb for warmth and movement, another for aromatic support, and that final herb for comfort and balance. So now place all 3 formulations side by side. They all belong broadly in respiratory herbalism, right? But they're not interchangeable. The first formula is built around dryness and irritation. The second is built around thick mucus and congestion. And the third is early seasonal upper respiratory discomfort. That is why asking what is the best respiratory tea is not a useful question, because depending, well, any of them. Better question is, what is happening? What kind of support am I looking for? And what does each herb contribute to the blend, right? That's the heart of formulation. A simple formula building framework, right? When you can begin creating your own educational formulas, right? When you do, ask 4 questions, right? What is the main pattern of my issue? Is it dry, wet, stuck, irritated, early and upper respiratory, deep and congested, right? And then your second question is, what herb best matches that central pattern, right? That becomes your foundation herb and usually receives the largest proportion in your blend. And the third is, what is missing? Does the blend need something soothing? Does it need something for movement? Does it need something with an aromatic warmth? Maybe we need to top off the flavor, right? Change the flavor a little bit. Are we looking to overall relax during this preparation? What are we looking for, right? Is every herb appropriate for the person? This is where health conditions, pregnancy, age, allergies, medication interactions, this is where it matters. Because a beautiful formula on paper can still be wrong and hurt somebody if you don't understand the herbs in your preparations. So, for those of you that enjoy homework and really want to dive in, use 1 commercial respiratory tea, turn the package over and study the ingredients list. Do not begin by asking, is this a good tea? Ask, what appears to be the foundation herb? What respiratory picture does this formula seem designed around? Which herbs are likely supporting that central goal? Is anything included mainly for flavor or balance? And are there any herbs such as licorice that would make the formula inappropriate for certain people? You may not know every answer, and that's fine. But I think looking at these things and paying attention to them, like just because it's on the shelf doesn't mean it's right for you. The point is, begin seeing formulations as intentional structures rather than random collections of plants. A thoughtful herbal formulation is not created by adding every respiratory herb you have on your shelf. It begins with a clear goal, and then each herb earns its place. Marshmallow brings in something that mullein doesn't. Thyme contributes something that elderflower does not. Elecampane changes the characteristic of a blend in a way that lavender never could. And that is why learning individual herbs matters before we begin combining them. We're not simply mixing plants. We're building relationships between their different strengths. So, think about it. If you were building a basketball team, right, you would pick specific things to make sure that your team was successful. So the same thing should be in your herbal formulations, right? What am I trying to accomplish? What is my ultimate goal? Just drinking herbs is not your ultimate goal. Your ultimate goal is to find the herbs that support the body's natural functions. Herbs are not cure-alls. Herbs support the body's natural function to do things. I hope this was helpful. And maybe I probably should go drink some of my own marshmallow root infusion because my throat is on fire. So apparently some herb is cracking off today or some weed that's killing my throat. But until next time, guys, I want you to stay rooted, stay curious, and as always, keep growing.